Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Looks like we've got a couple people online. My name is Mike Berticelli. I am a designer for GMT Games, and my latest game is Wolfpack, the North Atlantic Convoy Struggles. I thought what I'd do today is show you guys a little bit about the game, tell you a little bit how it plays and my thoughts in designing it. It is currently on the P500 list. You can order it there on the GMT website. The great thing about that is you're not obligated to, pay for it at that time. You're just telling GMT that you will order it when the time comes out, when it's ready to be released. So there's no, you don't have to worry about your having to spend your money up front. They won't charge you until it's ready to ship. So that would be a good thing. Appreciate that very much. So let's go ahead and get into Wolfpack and tell you a little bit about the game and my thoughts on designing it. What I want Wolfpack to be is the submarine game that I want to play. There's a lot of submarine games out there right now in our hobby. There's from all different scales. You can play the entire war, and a lot of them. Some are story based. You got the older one, maybe from Avalon Hill Submarine, which is real tactical. But none of them really has scratched the itch for me for the game that I want to play. So I decided, I would take a shot at it. It's a funny story how it all kind of worked out. We were at a GMT weekend at the warehouse in Hanford doing a game con there, right when Skies Above the Right came out. And Skies was super popular. Everybody was playing it. And I found a lot of people were playing it cooperatively. They were 2, 3, 4 guys at a table playing it. Same at the table I was playing at. I was playing with a couple of guys. Everybody seemed to really be enjoying that. And one of my friends, Michael All, came over to me and goes, this would work with submarines. And it's like the old light bulb went off. And the next day I came into the con and I had a game in my mind already. And originally I went to Jerry White, who's the designer. Him and Mark are the designers of Skies Above the Reich. And I approached them thinking that, maybe they could do it. I would be happy to help them do it. And talked to Jerry for quite a while, and he told me, just make your game and, take it, make it how you want it. It's not part of Skies, but I got a lot of inspiration from that game. So I just want to thank Jerry for the light bulb moment for me that it's similar to Skies. It gave me a lot of inspiration to do this. So what Wolfpack is, it is a tactical game of the convoy struggles, the German submarines attacking the merchant ships in the North Atlantic. And what I'd like to do today is just to show you the physical game. I've got a couple disclaimers. This is the first live stream that I've done, and it's probably going to be pretty brutal. I'm trying to use multiple cameras, and this is the first time doing it. So, you don't have to write anything in the chat box on how terrible it is, because I probably already know. So that's the first disclaimer. Second disclaimer is that we will. This is all playtest art. It's all my art. A friend of mine in Poland, Thomas, has done the submarine boards, but everything is all playtest. So just want to get that out of the way too. So what I'd like to do is start off by just kind of going over the game for you. We'll start with the game board, and let me pull that up for you guys. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get there. So what you're looking at here is the game board for Wolfpack. Um, the game is played in a couple different segments. The first segment that we do is we have a really big campaign system to this. So my thoughts for this game was to make this a team game. You know, a lot of people play co-op games, and a true co-op game, generally everybody around the table that's playing it has a character or something with, you know, special abilities that, you know, you all work together to achieve the a common victory in the game. But this, you know, in this game, I look at it more of a team game because we all have the same equipment, right? We're all in a submarine, so it's it is cooperative, but it's more of a team game. We all have to add our individual victory scores to have a team score to be able to uh, achieve victory in our scenario. The game will be the the campaign game will last from October of 41 through March of 43. You know, the end of 41 was the end of the happy times, where the submarines were pretty much running around and having their way. Um, the anti-submarine defenses got a lot better starting around that time, and the game progresses through, you know, the improvement of the Allies and their attack on the submarine player. This is a 1 to 4 player game. So, and I've also designed it where in the campaign game, if you have 4 guys playing and 1 guy can't make it for that session, it's okay. It'll scale down for just 3 players. If 1 player is playing the game, you'll control all 4 subs. If 2, then you'll each have 2. Of course, 4 for 4 players. Um, so in the campaign, you will have 5 submarines that you'll be in charge of. So there's 20 in the game that will be in a campaign. So each player will have 5. And if you lose a submarine, then of course you're down 1. And if you get too low, as a team, if we lose too many submarines, we can automatically lose the game. The way that we win the campaign is the campaign is broken up into 3-month segments. So there are 6 segments that run through the game, and you must win 4 of the 6 segments to be able to claim victory. If you fall short of that, it's an auto loss. You also could have an auto loss if you lose too many submarines. So as the game progresses, that number gets higher. If you ever reach that number, then it is an auto loss. The campaign starts with us. If you're bringing in a new submarine into the campaign for the first time, it's going to get a set amount of experience points to spend, and you'll be spending experience points to improve your submarine's crew. You'll also be spending those experience points to give to the flotilla, turning them 1-to-1 into flotilla points. And the flotilla points are spent for things to set up the scenario. So on the map here, you can see down in here, we've got weather, day or night, and convoy speed. These are a few of the things that you will roll out in the beginning of the game to see what they are. And if you don't like a result, you can spend flotilla points to retry to see if you can improve it. As you can see underneath here, there's a second map underneath. So there's a large and a small convoy. This is the large convoy map. The small one underneath this is exactly identical, except it's missing this dark row of big squares and this one up on top. So it's just these dark squares. And these squares here are where the convoy ships are. So once you've rolled up your scenario and you have experience points to spend, you can spend those experience points on your crew to improve. Your crew, and I'm going to go ahead and shift over to the subboards. Your crew are located here on your subboards. There's 4 subboards here. This one's board Z. And in this spot here is the captain, the first watch officer, second watch officer, and the chief engineer. And then you have 3 sections of crew. You have bow, mid, ship, and stern. So these guys down in here and your crew, you can improve with experience points. So as you go through the campaign and you sink merchant ships, you'll get experience points for the tonnage that you sink. You'll get experience points if you survive. If you get back, if your submarine returns in one piece, you get more experience points for that. If your crew makes it back without its submarine, it's less experience points. But you'll spend those experience points to improve. It's a little bit of a tech tree that's on that sheet of improving all the different positions on the boat. And they range from your captain can do stuff like make multiple tactical data calculations on multiple enemies. Your chief engineer can improve with repairs that you'll have to do if you encounter being attacked and you have damage to your ship, to your submarine. There's a lot of different things that there'll be a different video to go into that into more detail. But just to kind of explain, that's how the campaign works. So you'll spend those points, improve your crew, spend flotilla points to roll out your scenario, try to get it to the best that you can, and then you will roll on a chart and find out where your starting location is on the map. And if anything happened to you, if an event happened to you along the way from, the Pens in France out to the North Atlantic, and it could be something good that happens to you, or it could be something bad. Just depends. So let's take a look at the map, and then I'll kind of go into how we get this thing working. Up here, we have a turn sequence of play. We have the torpedo move and detonation phase, the submarine movement, submarine observation, the TDC, the torpedo data computer calculations, your anti-submarine warfare. The opponent is an AI opponent. All the escorts that will be hunting us down are driven by an AI. Then we have convoy movement, torpedo reload, submarine attack where we fire our torpedoes, damage control, and then we repeat. The game can last 20 turns. It could be less if everybody disengages early, but there's a sudden death that starts on turn 21, where you don't know exactly when the scenario will end. The game here is divided up into 2 segments. The first segment is, and before I go any farther, if there's any kind of questions that you guys have afterwards, if I can find where the chat is, I will go in there and I see it. I'll answer some questions for you. Hopefully, most of them will get answered during the thing. It's hard for me to answer those and do all this at the same time. So at the end, we'll take a little time and I'll try to answer any questions. The game is divided up into two segments. The first segment is the approach segment, and it lasts for the first 10 turns. So the turn track is here. When it gets to 10, we put another turn marker here to signify 11 through 20. That starts the attack segment of the game. So backing up to the first 10 turns, the approach segment is played on these outer boxes that go around the map. Our submarines that we have here are, see if I can find the camera to show it to you. Let's do this camera. We have, today, not really focusing for you. Hang on just a second here. Let me switch cameras and see if I can get that to get a little better for you. So we have submarine counters that are on the map. You'll notice that they are hexagon. So when you get into this inner part of the map, when you're on this inner part of the map, you have a hexagon that will rotate into 45-degree angles for your submarine. But to begin with, you're going to be on this outer part, and you will be moving from these blue boxes here, here, and then this attaches to here, and then these two, and then they attach to here. So in one turn on the surface, your submarine can move one box. Then the next turn, he can move to the next box. And then the next one, and so forth. So he's going to be, your submarine will be moving around here to try to get into a good attack position. The convoy, which is here, is always moving from the bottom of the map to the top of the map. So this convoy is always in this motion, moving in this direction. So if you want to position your attack from the front of the convoy, which is your best attack position, you're going to need to maneuver out here to get your submarine in a good attack position. Of course, up here is much more dangerous as far as anti-submarine warfare than down here. But down here, it's a terrible place to attack from. So it's always that give and take. You know, what kind of position do I want to get and how much danger do I want to be in doing it? So I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on that. But before we do that, let's go back to these subboards so you can see a little bit about these guys. The subboards will track all of the information that our submarines are going through. So this submarine that we were looking at here is on its white side, which means he's on the surface. You look here, we have a depth track, surface periscope, 50, 100 feet, 150 feet, 200 feet. Your submarine counter is here. He's on the surface. He's on this light side. He's on his light side here. So this submarine is in this position on the surface. If he were to dive, say he was to go down to 100 feet, it would look something like that. He'd be flipped over to his underwater side at the 100-foot level, and he is positioned right here. It works the same in here too. So we have the position on the map and then the depth that we're at. Looking back over here, we have places on the submarine board to keep track of everything that's going on. So we have the ID. This is Sub-Z. It's a Type 7C. We have a spot for hydrophones, the 88 deck gun, and periscope up on here. These are places where they will have damage tokens placed on them. So a light damage token could be on here, and that means that the periscope has suffered light damage. damage can be repaired as long as it's not completely destroyed. You can always bring damage down, and damage is in levels. So light damage would be a level 1, medium level 2. And there are 4 levels. If you get to the 4th level, it's light, medium, heavy, destroyed. Of course, if it's destroyed, then you cannot repair it after that. When a position on the boat, a piece of equipment takes heavy damage, there are penalties for that. And I won't go into great detail on that. I'm going to be making another video of like gameplay, probably use Tabletop Simulator. Today I wanted to show you guys the physical, copy of the game, but I'll probably be using some Tabletop Simulator to play the game, and you can see stuff close up and see things better. But so we have rudders, and we've got electric and diesel engines. We have a couple spots here of what type of how our submarine is operating. Is it an operation running, where you're making noise, you're moving as fast as you want, you can do repairs, or are you silent running? And you flip this over for silent running to evade being detected by the enemy. When you're silent running, you can't do repairs, you can't move as good. There are restrictions for silent running. So what I wanted this game to have is a lot of decisions. You know, I like my solitaire games with a lot of decision making in them. I know I know people are comparing this game to another that is more of a story based game with rolling dice and checking charts, and there's nothing wrong with the game like that. I mean, it's a great game. People love it, and that's awesome. It's not the kind of game that I particularly like to play. So another reason why I went this route with this game is I want to be tons of decisions that you have to make. We have a spot along here, and then let's continue with this one right here. This is TPs, and the TPs stand for tactical points, and you put a generic 1 through 8 counter there to signify how many TPs that you have. And tactical points can be spent for a lot of things in the game. If you don't like an outcome of a card pull, you can re-pull it. If you need to do a crash dive, it costs a TP. So there's a lot of different things in the game that can really help you, but they cost TPs, and you only have so many of those. So they're really important. They're a big tactical part of the game. So spending those wisely will really give you a lot of benefits. So that's what this is. And then we've got a flooding / hull damage track. And on that track, we use, when you take damage, you put a flooding counter on there. And say you're up to here with flooding, and it's the time to repair. If you're successfully repairing this, it'll flip to the contained side. And once you have it contained, if you repair it again, it can start to get in a little bit better shape. But if at the end of a turn, your repair phase, and you weren't able to contain it, it's going to move up 1 by itself. So eventually it's going to get up into the place where it says sunk, which is a place you don't want to be. And as it gets up here, your submarine starts to get heavy with water, and you'll have to lose depth. You're going to head to the bottom until you can get some of that water pumped out of there. So real important track there. The other really important track is the fire track. The fire works the same way here. The fire track will move up, and it'll be contained, and then you can get it completely off. But if the fire ever gets all the way up to the top up here, then you are sunk. There's one other one for gas, and it runs this track. It doesn't have a contain side, and you cannot fix it. The only way is if this gas, poisonous gases from the battery leaks and stuff happen, and it gets all the way to the top up here. You must surface, and every turn that you do not surface, your crew will take some damage. Looking over here, we've got a chart for the repairs and what it costs to repair. These are our torpedo tubes. We have torpedoes that we will load into our torpedo tubes. A torpedo for each tube. These are the 4 front. And then we'll also put, those are all steam torpedoes I put in there. Here's an electric in the rear. Below those torpedo tubes, there's a place for your TDC calculations. And that TDC counter looks like that. That would be a +1. When you put a TDC on a calculation on an enemy ship, this is tube 1. It would give you a +1 when you fire. And then you've got this target where you would actually put it out here onto the main board, onto a ship that you would possibly be putting a calculation on. Let's give you the whole screen on that. So, cargo ship, TDC calculations placed on him. Torpedo tube 1 has that calculation aimed at that ship. So you have one for each one of your torpedoes. This is a place here for reloads. How many A, which are steam torpedoes, or E, electric torpedoes, how many reloads you have. And every time you reload a torpedo tube, you mark one of those down. And this is a place to hold the health of your crew. Like if a crew takes light damage, it would go on them like that. So there's your oh, I gotta switch back. Sorry guys. So like I said, here's the torpedo, the TDC calculation. Here's the reloads. Here's what I talked about where you put your light damage. So a lot of stuff going on that board. Everything that you do with your submarine, you track right here on this board. Let's go ahead. And tonight what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go through this outer part of the approach. And then on another video in a few days, I'll go ahead and get into the attack portion. So the approach, like we talked about, we're going to be moving on these outer boxes here. The convoy will be in here, and there'll be convoy counters. I just pulled a few of them out. This counter says 1 on it. This has a little 2 right here. This has a little 3 right here. And these are rings of the convoy. This is ring 1, the outer ring. So all the ones that have a 1 on it go out here. The ones that have a 2 go on this inner second ring. And then the ones that have a 3 go on this inner third ring. And then there's a few here in the 4th for this large map. These convoy ships, there are 2 sides. There's a fog of war in this game. This side here is just a generic ship. You think there's a ship there, but you have to actually ID it and to see if there's really a ship. And when you do, you flip it over. This actually becomes a convoy ship, small, 2 victory points. This one is 3,000 tons. So ring 2 could have there's another small ship. Ring 3, there's a large ship. And then there are also, you think there might be a ship there, but actually it was a false. There was nothing there. So you can fire torpedoes at convoy ships that are in this state, but when you actually do ID them and you flip them over, they could flip up something like this. So to start the game, when we're out here in the approach, none of these will be on here. There'll be there'll be no ships on here. We are approaching. We're coming in from 20 miles out. We know there's a convoy here. Hydrophones tell us that. Also, we may see smoke coming out of the stacks or maybe the top of some stacks. So we know where the convoy is. The Wolfpack has congregated, and the attack is to start. So what we're going to be doing for the first 10 turns is moving along this outer boxes, trying to get into a good attack position. And of course, things to think about, you don't want multiple submarines right next to each other attacking the same ships. It's nice to try to spread out if you can. You can't always do it, but you're trying to achieve something like that. So during the turn, during this outer approach segment, we're only going to use 3 parts of the sequence of play. We're going to use submarine movement. We're going to do ASW, search, move, and attack, and damage control. So during submarine movement, everybody that has a submarine on the board is allowed to move. If you're on the surface, you can move 1 box. Okay, and I'm just going to deal with being on the surface today. So we're on the surface. It's our turn. I could move 1. Then TDC, ASW attack. This game, you can barely see here. There's a stack of cards here. This game is played with no dice. It has 6 different decks that you pull from. You know me with Tank Duel. If you're familiar with Tank Duel, I like my cards. So this game is completely card driven in that aspect, where there's no dice. All the information are on the cards, including charts. There are no CRTs. There are no charts that you hold in your hand and cross-reference. There's a small one when you're placing your ships. There's a small one when your submarines, or there's another small one when you're going home. During the actual play of the game, there's a real small one to see if the escorts, and there are escort counters here that are either fitted or not fitted. In other words, they have the latest radar and sonar, anti-submarine warfare stuff. You roll on that. You'll roll on that chart. Whenever I say roll, you're going to pull a card. But besides that, everything is handled with the cards. So when we get to the anti-submarine search, move, and attack portion, we're actually going to pull a card, and I will bring it here so you can see it. This is a multi-use card right here. These red boxes on the outside match the red boxes that are around the map. Here, here, up here. Those red boxes on the map match those red boxes that are around here. And that's the first thing that we're going to use when we're doing anti-submarine warfare. Then we have a box here with sonar, first contact, and homing. We have a box here for submarine evasion. We have a thing up here for ASW attack. Will they attack on that turn? We've got a die right here in the middle. Whenever you need a 1 to 10, you pull a card. We also have a random number generator, 1 through 4. If you're familiar with Fields of Fire, it's the same kind of random number generator that's there. So we have 1 to 4 here. We have radar, early war improved, and then we have a visual sighting box. So when it's our turn, we moved, and then we're going to do an ASW. I'll pull this, and I'll put the card right by the submarine. So this card would go with that submarine. If I had another submarine, let's say I had another submarine over here, I'd pull another card and put it by him, and I'll put 4 cards out by the submarine. And then I will turn it over, and then I will look at those little red boxes that match. There's one red box on the side here, which is that one right here. And that one has a green check mark in it. You notice some of the boxes have green check marks and some don't. This one has a green check mark, which means there is a possibility that there is a escort in the area close enough to possibly detect me. We'll go into more detail in a different video on that, but there's a bunch of escorts that are right here that we will, at the beginning of the game, we'll take these escorts and we will seed these cups. Early in the war, there aren't as many escorts as later. So the way I do that is I'll take 8 false sightings, put them in a cup, and then depending on the year, there's the type of escort that could possibly be there. Some flower, maybe 3 flower class, a swan, another swan. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then maybe a hunt, a D, and then maybe a second flower. They would go in there with those 8. And we'd shake these up and we'd put 8 more false sightings into this cup. And then out of these 8 and 7, we will pull 7 randomly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And shake it up, and we don't know what's in there. So we don't know if there's a bunch of escorts in there or there are no escorts in there. So at that time, we would go to one of these cups because it has a green check mark here because of this box, and we'd pull one out, and it was an escort. If we pulled one that said, this one says false contact, if we pulled a false contact, that means that he was close, but probably not close enough, or we thought we saw something and it actually wasn't there. If an escort actually is pulled, then he will go to this red box and we will pull another card. Let's go back to this camera over here. We will go back to this card here. And we are on the surface because our submarine is on its light side. He will use his radar. Early war, late war, if there was a green check mark there, he would have got me on radar. If it's a red X, he did not get me. So this card, he was close, he was there, but he did not pick me up. He would go into the patrolling box. He would go from this red box to the patrolling box. So in a subsequent turn, if I pulled this up again and got another green check mark, I wouldn't pull from the cup. He's already in the area. He would slide back up and look for me again. If he missed me a second time from here, he'd go back on this track and work his way through and back onto the board possibly. So that's a real quick overview of how this works on the outside here. When they do find you, and we'll go over this in a different video, they're going to attack you. We're going to use a series of cards. They're going to drop depth charges on you. You'll have an opportunity to dive. Maybe possibly you might have to crash dive, because when they do find you, they could be right on top of you. They could have surprised you. They could be one turn away from attacking you, or you may have picked them up far enough out where you could have 2 or 3 turns to react before he can get to you and start to attack you. And you can, get deeper and deeper if you want to. The deeper you get, of course, the better it is to evade those depth charges, but it does put you down into crush depth. You see some yellow and orange and red arrows here. If you have a certain amount of damage and you're down here in these crush depths, with the amount of damage that you have, you could implode. So they're, going deep is good, but it could also be very bad. The He will stay on top. There's a mechanism in the game where um, he'll find you, he'll start to home in on you, and try to get a real good contact. The whole time you'll be doing things like evasive maneuvers and silent running to try to shake him and lessen his contact. So there are contact levels of like full contact, lost 1, lost 2. If you can get them to lost 3, then they lose contact on you, have to go back to the patrol box, and you've gotten away. The whole time you're dealing with depth charges being dropped on you and damage control and sinking submarines. So yeah, it's never pretty when the escorts show up. So I think we'll probably keep it right there for now. If anybody has any questions or anything, I actually don't. I told you this wasn't going to go well. I don't see any kind of chat. So, next time I'll probably go to Tabletop Simulator so you guys can see a lot closer view of things. And I think we will go ahead and call this right here. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to take a look at this. I really appreciate it, and I'll have more to come soon. So thank you. Talk to everybody soon.